All right, let's do this. How's everybody doing? Just catching up on the chat here. You guys hear me okay? I was having a little trouble with my microphone before we got started, but it seems like it's okay now. If you can hear me okay, let me know and give me a shout out and let us know where you're watching from. Avatar 1977, were you born that year? I was born that year. It's a good year to be born. Where's everybody watching from today? Is it nap time yet? Sean, my wife and I say that probably 20 times a day. Major important question, 2-way or 3-way Skyline? You talking about Skyline chili? Because we don't have that in this part of Ohio. That's on the other side of Columbus. Northeast Ohio and Southern Ohio are like two completely different cultures. Croatia, Oklahoma, Texas, Virginia, Germany. Awesome. Leeds, awesome. Northern England, huh? I think Leeds is in Northern England, or North Central England, I guess. Dayton, very cool. Highlands Ranch, Colorado. Bro Dog Chief, I have been there so many times. I have stayed a bunch of times in the Hampton in Highlands Ranch. That's where we stay when I go out to Littleton for training for my work. Very cool. So what are we discussing today? I've got a bunch of announcements, some stuff I want to talk about some things that are happening with the channel. But then we'll take some questions as well in the midst of all of that. So, all history hubs from Ohio. Somebody mentioned that to me. I did not know that until somebody mentioned it because we were talking about Parth. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. I'm glad to have you. I'm glad to have all you guys as a part of this community. It's fantastic, and I'm really blessed to have such an amazing community that is built up around this channel. And watching from Cleveland, the greatest city in the world. Nice. Yeah, somebody mentioned to me, because I think it was in the context of me saying something about the way he pronounces double T's, like in the word cotton and Britain, or that's a single T, I guess, because he does like a soft, like a D sound, and I was trying to figure out where in the world he was from, and somebody said, well, he's from Ohio, and I said, well, we don't talk like that here. So let me real quick, let me just kind of check in and see how many people we got watching and stuff like that, because I don't have my stream thing up to be able to see that. Okay, we got almost 200 people here. Cool. Mehmet, it's funny that you mention about the Ottoman Empire, because we are all about to get a crash course in Ottoman and Turkish history. One of my patrons requested a series on Turkey. A video series that I'm going to be getting into probably next week. So it's a long video series, so we're all going to learn a whole lot about Turkey and the Ottoman Empire. So I know a little bit, but I'm curious to learn a whole lot more. Hamed, watching from Iran, very cool. I've got a friend, a co-worker with Rachel's Challenge who is from Iran. Visit the Highlands Ranch Mansion. I've never heard of that. I'll have to check it out. Yes, Nate Carlos, Southern Ohio is Kentucky, and as one whose family comes from Kentucky, I can confirm that. Zachary, you're in Gettysburg. Nice. So anyway, Philip, I'm going to let that one slide and forgive you for such an egregious comment as that state up north that we don't even mention. If you're not from Ohio or Michigan, you probably don't know that there's a bit of a rivalry between the two states, and it gets kind of ugly at times, to the point where, like when we play each other in football, the governor of Ohio signs a proclamation banning the letter M from being used, things like that. All right, so let me tell you about some really cool things we've got coming up with the channel that I'm excited to share with you. And I've alluded to some of them here and there on some things. But first thing is, I've had, in the last couple of weeks, a number of people reach out to me about joining them as a guest on their podcasts. Now, the two that I've already got kind of lined up are not specifically historical podcasts. They're more podcasts that have to do with YouTubers and content creators in general and things like that. But there's two of them, Pure Kino and What's Up Fandom, that I'm going to be doing guest appearances on their podcasts here in the next 2 weeks. I don't know when those will go live yet, but I will certainly let you guys know that and give you the links to those. But I'm excited to be a part of those. They're podcasts, but they're video podcasts. So you'll actually see me, and we'll be doing like a kind of a face-to-face interview over video chat kind of thing. And yes, it is more Michigan University and Ohio State. And I understand that some people in Michigan aren't Michigan fans. They're Michigan State fans, like a dear friend of mine who graduated from Michigan State. So he hates Michigan as much as I do. But yeah, so those podcasts are going to be coming up soon, and you could probably expect a whole lot more of that kind of thing as this channel grows and gets on more and more people's radars. There'll probably be more people reaching out, and I get a lot of people reaching out about things like collaborations or doing what's the word I'm looking for? Like ads for the channel and sponsorships and things like that. But I don't say yes to a lot of things because I want them to be right fits for the channel. And I want them to be things that are consistent with what I'm trying to do. And so I don't want to do it just as a quick way to make some money. I want these things to be kind of consistent with who we are as a channel. So, Gabriel, you were in Gettysburg yesterday. Very cool. And yeah, there's a reason I've got the picture of the Gettysburg or the Vicksburg campaign up on the screen, and I'm going to be getting to that in just a couple of minutes. What happens to the kid with the mom who went to Michigan and the dad who went to Ohio State? Tragedy? Yes, it is. And it's funny because here in Northeast Ohio, one of the things I should explain about in Ohio, we have a lot of universities and colleges in Ohio. But one thing that seems to be pretty consistent in Ohio, like I live near Youngstown State University, which is where my wife went to school and my sister went to school. And so we're Youngstown State University fans in football, but we're also Ohio State fans in football. And that's kind of a thing in Ohio where people support their local university, but then pretty much everybody in the state also supports Ohio State. But there are these occasional weirdos that live in this area that are Michigan fans, and I've never really figured out how that happens, but it does happen. A video or a series about Portugal? Yeah, that's definitely something we could do. I want to try and get out of my comfort zone here and there. I don't do it all the time because I don't want to just be a strict reaction channel where I'm just reaction like, oh, wow, that's interesting, and stuff like that. I want to be able to contribute something. And so that's why I focus so heavily on things I know something about, because I want to be able to contribute something valuable to the conversation. But I do occasionally like to learn new things, so... War of Rights, very cool. I haven't played that for a while. I do have the game. Cedar Points, yes. Cedar Point. Okay, I'm just catching up on chat. So yeah, more about those podcasts coming soon. I think both of those podcast interviews are scheduled for next week, at the end of next week. But I don't know how soon it'll be before they go live, but I'll certainly post some announcements about that. So make sure you guys have your notifications turned on so that when I do post those announcements, you'll get those notifications so you can know about those things. Okay, what else do I want to talk about here? I've got a list of things I want to let you guys know about. Also, giveaways. Going to be doing some more giveaways soon, so I'm open to some suggestions about what those giveaways will be. I will probably give away another package of maybe 3 or 4 books, like biographies, or historical books of some kind. So if you have a particular historical book you've wanted to read or something you want to listen to on Audible, we'll probably do a giveaway like that. But I want to do something big when we hit 500,000 subscribers, which sounds like it's a ways away, but at least according to Social Blade, and let's check this out for a second because this is pretty cool. Social Blade's projections say, and it's been pretty accurate so far, so we'll see. But it says we'll hit 500,000 subscribers in January. So that's pretty crazy if that app actually turns out to be true. But I want to do something big, and by something big, I'm thinking like a trip somewhere, like to a historic site, that kind of thing. So I will let you guys know more about that as we get along, but I definitely want to do some smaller giveaways here and there. So if you have suggestions about things I could give away besides giving out historical books and things like that, let me know. And yeah, Ewan, it's pretty crazy, isn't it? I started this channel, really started doing daily content on the channel late December, early January. And yeah, it was like, some of my early videos talk about, man, we're almost to 1,000 subscribers, and oh, we're almost to 10,000 subscribers, and it's crazy. And you guys get all the credit in the world for that, for helping grow this. All right, let me catch up on chat a little bit. Mead versus Jackson. I would take Mead, believe it or not. Shelby Foote books are very good. He who ignores politeness and rules is soon to be whacked with a massive timeout or banhammer, says random German guy. Padaskos, what is that name coming from? Billy, it'll probably depend on where I'm going at that time. There is, and this is something else I should probably go ahead and mention. You guys hear me talk a lot about JD from the History Underground, which if you haven't seen his channel yet, definitely check it out. If you like my historical site videos, you will love his. His are so well done, and he really puts a lot of time into doing them well, and that's really what his channel is all about. But JD's become a friend through our kind of common interests and things like that, and our collaboration, and me going to be a part of his project of cleaning up Currahee. But I'm planning to be a part of his trip to Normandy next spring, probably April or May. Now, depending on how many people are available to be a part of that, it's possible that I could make that the giveaway. I know he's planning to do a giveaway for Normandy, for that trip to Normandy, when he hits 250,000 subscribers. I decided to do 500,000 just because of the timing. I think we'll probably hit 500,000 not long after he hits 250,000, at least at the rate we're growing. But he's been growing a lot lately, so it could happen a little faster. I hope it does. He deserves all the growth he gets. So Taylor, thank you. Appreciate that. Home of John Brown. Yes, John Brown has a few homes. Connecticut is where he's originally from. He also called Ohio home for a while, and then Kansas home for a while. Grant or Lee, I would choose Grant. Matt, if it hadn't been for COVID, I'd be in the UK right now, actually. I'd be getting ready to come home from the UK. So yeah, the UK is definitely in the works as soon as they open travel back up. Christian, yes, definitely will do something for 200K. I do not teach history, though I did go to college to be a history teacher. GOF, Bellefontaine Cemetery. And you know what? I also that day visited the Catholic cemetery, which is right next to Bellefontaine Cemetery in St. Louis, which is where Sherman's buried, among others. And for some reason, I don't have it up on the channel, so I'm going to have to get that re-edited and upload that. Definitely more English history will be coming. You're from Brunswick. Very cool. I don't know about the Franklin Pierce food fight at Bowdoin College. I know he went to school there, but that's it. There's not a link in the description of this video, that one guy, but in all of my videos from my Georgia-Tennessee trip, you will find the link. It's called the History Underground. You'll find it really easily if you just search for History Underground. I think a lot of Civil War generals are more highly regarded than they should have been, and I think some are not as highly regarded as they should be. Subs race. Hey, Santos, it's funny you mention that, because when I was in Georgia with JD, he was at 117,000, and I was at 109,000. I passed him while we were there. Right about the time I flew home is when I passed him. But then his series from Gettysburg, which is now like 20 episodes, and is fantastic, by the way, as somebody who I consider myself an expert on Gettysburg, and he commented to me, he said, "Oh man, my series on Gettysburg must be cringeworthy for you then." I said, "No, dude, it's awesome. I love it." He's touched on a lot of things in Gettysburg that not a lot of people visit or know about, which is, I think, great. And it's always great to see something through somebody else's eyes anyway. So his series on Gettysburg has really, I think, helped his channel take off. And he just went over 150,000 subs. So he's hit some pretty massive growth, too. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if he passes me back up again. And I would be super excited for him if that happens. You know, contrary to what some people may think, and honestly, I mean, obviously my channel's very different than JD's. Because, and I don't know why my chat's catching back up now. Because I do a mix of reactions and other types of things besides just historic site videos. We're fans of each other. There's no competition. I mean, there's, you know, maybe a friendly thing, but it's never even come up in conversation. Mr. Terry and I have very similar channels, but I hope he hits 1 million subscribers before I do. I hope, you know, YouTube's a big place, and there's lots of room for multiple content creators. And some of the people that I've been doing, and I'm sorry, I'll get back to the chat here in a minute. Some of the people that I've been doing reaction videos to have reached out to me and just said, hey, thanks for reacting to my channel. Really appreciate it. And I've said back to them, hey, you know, I hope it grows your channel. Hope we send some subs your way. Kings and Generals, they subscribe to this channel now. And I've one of the other ththings I was going to mention, and Subu Dubu, thank you. Appreciate that. Glad you're here. One of the things I was going to mention is that I have started all the channels I do reactions to. I've started, if they have a Patreon, I've started signing up as a patron at a pretty high level to all those channels. But I just feel like, as a matter of integrity for me, if I can give back and support those channels whose content I've used on my channel, it's the absolute least that I should be doing. So I'm trying to do that. I'm a patron of JD's channel. I'm a patron of Kings and Generals. I'm a patron of, I forget who else I just signed up to this week. But anytime I do a reaction video, Yarn Hub. Anytime I do a reaction, and Yarn Hub's another one. They've reached out to me and said, hey, thanks for reacting and things like that. And they're very supportive of what we're doing. So for the most part, you know, we're all on the same team, and we all have the same goal, which is to help people learn history and to learn history ourselves. So, all right, let me catch up. A ton of chat to catch up on, and I apologize for getting a little behind. I've never been to Verdun. I've never been to Europe. I'm hoping that will change very soon. Henry V or Edward III? I would take Edward III. Vicksburg or Gettysburg? I think Vicksburg was more important to the outcome of the war. What do I do for a living? Oh, that's a great question. Right now, the majority of my income comes from YouTube, from my 2 YouTube channels. I also am a speaker for an organization called Rachel's Challenge, where I travel around the country speaking in schools about kindness and compassion and about how we treat each other. I work for some friends of mine who lost their daughter in the Columbine shooting in 1999. My 16-year-old daughter is named after her. And I'm also a part-time pastor. I preach on Sunday mornings at a church. So those are some of the things that I do. What subject or time period do I feel is my most expertise? The American Civil War and British medieval history would be the 2, I would say. I am going to react to Oversimplified's 3 Kingdoms at some point. Nate, I go to Colorado multiple times a year. That's where the headquarters is for Rachel's Challenge that I work for. So, pre-COVID, I would be there in the summer and the spring at minimum, sometimes more often than that. Love Colorado. It's one of my favorite states. Something on Greek mythology, we could do that at some point. Ohio has famous generals, terrible presidents, and the most astronauts. That's quite accurate, Jacob. Absolutely. A lot of inventors, too. The Wright brothers, Thomas Edison. So, you know, we kind of got that going for us some, too. You guys are sleeping on the land of LeBron. Yeah, LeBron, his house in Akron's about 40 minutes from me. Arlington Cemetery is definitely on my list of places I need to get back to. I've been there many times before, but I've never done a video in Arlington. And I want to go back to the American History Museum and do some videos there. So that'll definitely be coming, Nick. Absolutely. Probably in the next 6 months or so, I would think. DC Bueno, thank you. Appreciate that. All right, I got a few more announcements I want to make, but I'm trying to catch up on the chat first. I'm definitely interested in Spanish history. I've been to California a couple of times. I spent a week speaking at schools in Pomona, which is outside, it's east of LA. Been to Northern California, like where the Donner Party was. How do you pronounce Nevada? Nevada. That's how I pronounce it. Unless you're in Iowa, because there's a Nevada, Iowa, spelled the exact same way, but pronounced Nevada. I haven't read any good books on the Franco-Prussian War, but I'm sure there are some. Any Civil War general on par with Napoleon? No, I don't think so. American history or European history? I'm an American, so I have to say American. I don't think it's more important. I just think I find it personally more interesting. I have been to Arlington and seen the changing of the guard. I actually got to, in 8th grade, I was chosen by my school to be one of the students who did a wreath-laying ceremony at the Tomb of the Unknown. So I got to do that. Christian, I have been to 47 states. Rhode Island, which I was a half hour away from last week, but didn't go to. Louisiana, which I will be visiting next month. And Utah are the 3 I haven't been to. Napoleon or Wellesley, I would take Napoleon. All right, let me do a couple more quick announcements. The reason you see the map of the Vicksburg campaign up, I put up a poll on Patreon for our patrons, asking them which historic site out of 3 choices they would like to see me visit next on the channel. Dara, thank you so much. Continental expansion? Yeah, oh, definitely. That would be very interesting. We could do that sometime. So the choices were the Vicksburg campaign, Little Bighorn in Montana, and what was the other one? I can't remember what the other one was. Give me a second and I'll tell you. But it was 3rd place. It was, it was between Vicksburg and Little Bighorn were the 2 that got the most votes. I'm trying to remember what the 3rd one was. Maybe somebody will be able to tell me. Somebody on here who's a patron. Or I could just maybe pull it up here. Give me a second. But anyway, I mean, I'm planning on visiting all 3 of those places eventually. But I wanted to see what people wanted to see next the most. Oh, and Charleston, South Carolina was the other one. Charleston, South Carolina has Fort Sumter, has the USS Yorktown, has the H.L. Hunley, things like that. So the vote right now on Patreon for that, and it appears pretty well settled, is 30 votes for Vicksburg, 20 for Little Bighorn, and 13 for Charleston. So the plan is I'm headed to Vicksburg, Mississippi sometime in the next month or so. I'm going to probably spend 3 days doing multiple videos. I'm thinking 8-10 videos. Kind of like what I did with my Tennessee and Georgia trip. Just recounting and following the events of the siege of Vicksburg. So I'll bring you a ton of content from that. And I'll catch up on you guys on the chat in a minute. Because I think, personally, that the Grant's Vicksburg campaign was the most brilliant campaign by a general during the war. Once he ran the guns with the boats and got on the east side of the Mississippi, south of Vicksburg, what he did from there at Grand Gulf up to Jackson and over to Vicksburg was probably, I think, the best generalship of the entire war. And that's not all on him. He had some subordinates who did some really good things too. He also had a couple of knucklehead subordinates. I'm looking at you, McClernand. But the reason I mentioned that is because, like I did with Chickamauga and with Andersonville, I'm going to set aside one of the days that I'm on my trip for anybody who wants to join me. Not only in being a part of making the videos, but also in touring Vicksburg. So I will be announcing that specific date once I have my travel confirmed. It's going to be sometime in August, though I don't know when for sure. I'd rather do it early in August, but right now it looks like the flight costs go way down the second half of August to fly from Pittsburgh to Jackson, Mississippi. So that's probably what I'm looking at. But I will let you guys know the exact date. And then anybody who wants to join me on the Vicksburg battlefield on that day will be welcome to do so. I'm setting aside one day for it because what I learned from my trip to Chickamauga and Tennessee and Georgia, and Andersonville is, while it was awesome to be able to visit with some of you guys and hang out with you, and I love it, and I definitely am going to do that much more. I can't get a lot done as far as creating content when we're interacting and things like that. So I'm going to set aside a day where I'm not making a ton of video, but mostly just so we can tour and interact and spend time together. And that's my plan moving forward, is for that to be a monthly thing. Sometime this fall, going to do the same thing in Gettysburg. So I'm going to invite you guys to be a part of Gettysburg, visiting and touring that. Also, I haven't figured out a date yet, but sometime probably again this fall, I'm going to get access to Toccoa for the weekend. Like what we did when I went down for the cleanup. We will get to sleep in the barracks. We will go hike Currahee, the 3 miles up, 3 miles down together. We'll watch Band of Brothers on the base, stuff like that. And that'll be something that we can probably open up to maybe 15 or 20 people. So that's in the works as well. So I'm excited to be able to share all of those things with you. Let me catch up on chat real quick. J. Piopolis, working as a medical historian. The evolution of medicine. That would be interesting. I don't have a ton of knowledge about that, but that's something I could maybe do a video and like some reactions to and things like that. My favorite part of the Civil War, definitely Gettysburg and Vicksburg. I probably have the most interest in, but mostly, personally, I love researching individual soldiers. I've researched hundreds of individual soldiers from the Civil War. I love learning their stories and how they interacted with it. You're Becca. Ignore the username. Okay, I will. All right, let me catch up on the chat here. Oh, Steve, I'm still working on editing. It took me a month to finally get the Andersonville episode up. I've still got Plymouth, Yorktown, William McKinley's grave. All content I've already recorded but haven't edited yet. So, insane. You are forgiven, sir. Don't let it happen again. The most important part of history that happened in New Jersey, I would say the Battle of Monmouth. But that's just me. Fort Wagner, yeah, a good bit of it, I believe, is underwater, yes. Any great books on Vicksburg to brush up on your history? Yeah, I did one. I'll tell you in a second. That's another thing. I'm working on a book recommendation list on Amazon that I'll hopefully be able to start sharing in the description of videos very soon. I've got a few more things to add to it first. Yeah, I did one on Vicksburg that was actually really well done. And it actually goes back to before Vicksburg, and kind of gives a little bit of the background of Grant going into that. Vicksburg by Donald Miller. It's, as an audiobook, it was 21 hours long, and it was really well done. I'm actually going to listen to it again in the next few weeks to kind of refresh my mind on everything Vicksburg before I go to start making content there. Richard, I don't think Burnside was that bad a general. I think Burnside got a bad rap because of one bad battle. McClellan was definitely worse. All right. Trenton. Yeah, Eric, thank you. How could I forget about Trenton being in New Jersey? I love Jarrett Ken Burns Civil War series. The reason I have become so passionate about the American Civil War is because of Ken Burns series. That was what introduced me to Ken Burns series. Important history in South Carolina. Oh, there's a ton of important history in South Carolina. Trey, I will definitely be visiting Champion Hill. That was I think the decisive battle, not only of the Vicksburg campaign, but because of that, one of the decisive battles of the American Civil War was Champion Hill. So we're definitely going to be doing that. All right, I'm just catching up on the chat now. Good Civil War audiobooks, Chris. Start with Grant by Chernow, or on Chernow. Excellent. Or Grant's autobiography. Very, very good. Surfo, definitely want to do content on the Wild West. I've been to Tombstone, but I want to get back there to Tombstone. I want to visit some of the sites associated with Billy the Kid. That's definitely happening. K, guten Nacht. My son Eli, who will be 9 in about a month, comes down this morning all excited and starts speaking German to me. I'm like, what in the world? So sometimes I like to chase him around the room, and I was hitting him with a pillow, and he says to me, bitte, or what did he say? Nein, bitte, nein, bitte. I'm like, how in the world did you learn how to do that? He's been playing with Duolingo, and he's my 8-year-old has been learning German on Duolingo, and he's picking it up. He's got a brilliant mind, so he's been picking it up. Nick Squatch, best book I've read on Abraham Lincoln is Team of Rivals by Doris Kearns Goodwin. It's huge and is a long read, but it's so good. Why is Meade underrated? Because so much of what he did happens after Grant comes east, and so a lot of people don't even realize Meade was still in command of the Army of the Potomac for the rest of the war. But Meade's early career, especially as a division commander, was fantastic. He was a very, very good general. Most influential U.S. president. Oh, boy, there's been so many that have been influential, but honestly, George Washington probably had the biggest impact of any president, just because so much of what we know about what presidents do and do not do now happened because of Washington. David, I need to get back to First Manassas, but I did a video on that on the First Battle of Bull Run a couple years ago. It was one of the earliest videos I have on this channel. Do I think Genghis Khan? There were some strategists, but he probably was more a charge straight at the enemy and just bludgeon them to death kind of guy. Oh yeah, Phil, and we'll talk about that when I do content from Vicksburg. Grant's first attempts at Vicksburg did not go well. I had 2 ancestors at the Battle of Chickasaw Bayou, which was a complete disaster for the Union and was one of the most one-sided casualty counts of any battle of the American Civil War. I have read some of the Warren Report. If I could choose one battle to go back in time and experience, probably Gettysburg. William, that's awesome. I hope you find some really interesting stuff in your family history. Random German guy, I almost said Roosevelt. Favorite music genre? I have a couple. Christian music and country. George Thomas, he's probably somewhat underrated. I think George Thomas, people either underrate him or overrate him, if you can believe that. I think some people talk like he's the best general that came out of the Civil War, and I don't think he was that good. But he was very, very good. Napoleon or Caesar? Napoleon. Battle of the Crater could have ended the war early, I think, had it been handled right. Certainly could have ended the war in the East earlier. My favorite European royal house, Plantagenet, or as they would have called themselves, the Angevin dynasty. Hope my hotel in Mississippi is fiendishly air-conditioned. I know, Carlos. I know the South in the summer, the humidity is insane. So I am prepared for that. Dixieland was written in Ohio, believe it or not. As an Ohioan, that's one of the things I know. I did not get to Portland, Jonna, sorry. Aaron, no, I do not. All right, couple more quick announcements before I get to some more things on the chat. So I talked a little bit about travel. My hope is, and Christian, what I mean by Christian music is more like contemporary, like the stuff that's on the radio right now, mostly. Although I like a good hymn here and there. Travel, like I said, probably like a once a month kind of thing moving forward, in addition to my travel for work. Once we get to the end of August, early September, I start traveling for Rachel's Challenge, and I don't get to plan where I go for those. I go where they need me to go. And if one of those visits coincides with a historic site, I will definitely be going to those things. So there may be additional things I don't even know about yet. But upcoming places I'm hoping to visit here in the States would be Vicksburg, as I mentioned, in August. Hoping to get back to D.C., Washington, D.C., and visit some of those sites there. I was just in contact with somebody who lives in Spotsylvania, who has lived in Spotsylvania, Virginia all his life, who's got quite a collection of relics that he's found. And he's invited me to come and just do a video with him, kind of talking through and looking at all the relics he's found. So I'm excited to do that. So I'm going to try to squeeze in another visit to Virginia at some point, maybe when I go to D.C. Gettysburg's coming again for sure. Little Bighorn Battlefield in Montana for sure. Hoping to get to Charleston, South Carolina. And then, of course, Europe, the UK, for sure, hopefully as soon as possible once they open up travel. And then, as I mentioned, next spring with JD from History Underground going to Normandy. And I will probably, he's planning about a 5-day tour of Normandy and Western France. I will stay after that to visit some places like Waterloo, some of the World War I battlefields, and also to kind of go in the steps of Easy Company from Band of Brothers and see some of their stuff. So I'll probably end up making it a 2-week thing. The setup on the thumbnail is not mine, but mine looks like that. I found that image online because mine's messy. I've got like cups and papers and different things all over. So rather than clean my own mess, I found an image that looks similar to my setup to use for that image. So, all right, let me catch up on chat. I have been to the Hoover Dam, but I didn't make a video about it. But it was really cool. It was such a neat place to visit. I was out there. I officiated my sister's wedding in Las Vegas. And while we were there, Vegas isn't really kind of my thing. So we went to the Hoover Dam. Does The Last Stand count as Christian music? I will say yes, because right now Sabaton is my favorite band and probably the thing I listen to the most. You know, when I mention Christian music and country being my favorite genres, that doesn't mean that's all I listen to. In fact, my 2 favorite artists to listen to are Sabaton and Ed Sheeran, so they aren't either one of those things. So I have very eclectic music tastes, I guess you could say. I have not heard the Union Dixie song. People keep asking me about that. Man in the High Castle is really cool. I enjoyed it a lot. I do like that alternate history occasionally. Best place to visit in Ohio is Cedar Point. Do I think the Confederates would last if they won the Civil War? Yeah, but they would have had to change some things about their economy and how they did things. Decisive battles I'll have to check out at some point. I would love to go to Austerlitz, Eric. Absolutely. That's kind of at the top of my list. My wife and I were looking at maybe a few years down the road doing like a river cruise through Austria and all the way down into Hungary where her mom's family's from. And oh yeah, somebody mentioned the floods in Western Europe. Been seeing that. I hope any of you guys who are in those areas are doing okay. Thinking of you. Boy, it looks awful what's happening in Western Europe right now. B-Force Gaming, thank you. Why did Hitler invade the Soviet Union? Everybody's popular answer is oil. I think it's much simpler than that. It's ideology. He had to invade the Soviet Union because he hated the Russians as much as he hated Jews. He was always going to invade the Soviet Union for that reason alone. There were other reasons. When I come to Leicester, I should visit. Oh, Bosworth Battlefield is on. I have a whole full 2-week agenda of where I want itinerary of what our UK trip as a family was going to look like, and Bosworth was right on that list. The Monarch song from Horrible Histories. I'll have to check that out. The Washington Crossing area would be cool. I haven't been to the Philadelphia. That's real close to Philadelphia. I need to get back to Philadelphia. Kings Island is not better than Cedar Point. My favorite song from the Civil War, Bonnie Blue Flag. That and, what's the other one? Gosh, yeah, I'm almost 44 now, and I have a heck of a time remembering things these days. There's a Union song that I really like too. Maybe you guys can mention it and I'll remember it. Do I think Grant's a better general than Robert E. Lee? Yes, I do. Oh, Rally Round the Flag is the other one I like. You live 4 kilometers from Meuse. Very cool. Insane. I didn't realize you were that close to there. I mean, I knew you were right on the border of the Netherlands and Belgium, but is that the river that's flooding right now? Yeah, Ron, I would agree with that. Point Lookout, Maryland is something I'd like to visit sometime if I'm ever back in that area. All right, let me see. Oh, let me talk real quick about some of the upcoming original content. Definitely planning to make the Forgotten History thing a weekly thing. The last one was very well received. Typically, my let me let you guys in on a little kind of my philosophy when it comes to this channel right now. This channel was created as kind of an afterthought, honestly, with the idea being that taking the historic site content from my gaming channel and moving it to a separate channel so it could kind of have its own room to grow and be something different and maybe help with the YouTube algorithms in the process. Right about the time I did that was when COVID hit, and so there was no travel happening. A bunch of people were suggesting that I do reaction videos to things like Sabaton, and so I did a couple, and they went nuts. And I found very quickly that the reaction videos were the avenue to growth for this channel. I love doing the reaction videos. I will always do reaction videos because you guys like it. It's a cool idea for how to communicate history and talk about history. It also invites a lot of negative comments from people. I shouldn't say a lot. A small minority who make the accusations you're being lazy, stealing other people's content, stuff like that. And first of all, the thing is, number one, the reaction videos I do to things like Oversimplified, they make all the money off of it. I'm not making a dime off of Oversimplified. I'm getting subscribers because of it, and I'm not making any money off of it. Oversimplified has made, by my estimate, probably $30,000 off of my reaction videos. I think they're okay with it. A lot of other channels, like I said, have reached out to me and thanked me for doing American Battlefield Trust, Kings and Generals, Yarn Hub. They've reached out to me and said, hey, thank you for doing reaction videos. We appreciate it. We're glad you're doing it. We love what you're doing. And so I love getting that feedback, and I hope that in the process that I can maybe send a few subscribers their way and get them a little bit more revenue for their work. But my passion is the historic site videos, and I'm trying to get better at them. I hope you guys notice an increase in the quality as time goes on, as I put more effort and time and thought into doing those things. So the reaction videos then are a means to an end for me. I like doing them. I enjoy doing them. I'll continue to do them. They're going to be the backbone of this channel. But they then allow me to create the historic site videos. They give me the freedom to be able to travel and do those things. And now my original content is starting to get a decent number of views. You know, for example, I could do an oversimplified reaction video and get 20,000 views the first day. A historic site video might get 2,000 views the first day. That's kind of how it goes. But I noticed, like the other day with my video I did on John Buford, got 10,000 views in the first day. So it's starting to happen with those. So that encourages me to do it more often. So the Forgotten History thing is going to become a weekly thing. It takes a lot more work to do that. And so, you know, I spend about a week or so working on a script for that. And then I'll record the video and then throw in the pictures and images and things like that. So if you have ideas for those things, I would love to hear them for future Forgotten History. But also more original content from historic site videos. Like I mentioned earlier, I've got content from Plymouth that I need to get edited and up to you guys. I still haven't uploaded my visit to Yorktown or my visit to William McKinley's grave. And then I want to do one on Morgan's Raid, which ended about a half hour from where I live. The northernmost battle of the American Civil War happened in the town where the church is that I pastor, which is Salineville, Ohio. So that's going to happen sometime as well. All right, let me catch up on chat real quick. Grant or Eisenhower? Wow, that's tough. Because Eisenhower really never commanded troops in the field. I'd have to say Grant. But, I'm a little biased toward Grant. My favorite general in history is Napoleon. All right, I'm catching up on chat now. Somebody's rickrolling us. Oh, I got to say thank you to Musket. Thank you. Welcome as a member. And Jordan, thank you so much. Get this man to Alaska so he can cover the Civil War battles there. I've been to Alaska. My brother lives in Anchorage. Beautiful state. I was in Bethel, Alaska, which is on the western part of Alaska. It took me 16 hours to get there from the time I left my house to the time I got to my hotel. I was there in January of the year that I was there. I think it was 2018. And it was like 3 hours of sunlight when I was there. It was crazy. My gaming channel is History Guy Gaming. Random German guy, I already mentioned it. Insane. No, thank you for reminding me of that. I appreciate that. Insane and the other mods on our Discord, which join us on Discord if you haven't already. Give them more work to do. Set up a GoFundMe. This was something they did completely on their own. Insane approached me, asked me if it would be okay with me if they did this, and I said it was fine, and I appreciated it. They set up a GoFundMe to help fund my travels to be able to do those historic content videos, specifically with the idea of getting me to places I otherwise wouldn't be able to afford to go, places like Western Europe. And that got fully funded, I guess, a week or so ago. You can actually still donate to it. But also, if you sign up as a patron, we're putting patron money toward travels as well. So I've got a decent amount of money now set aside for future travels. Now we just need them to open up travel so I can do it. So thank you to everybody who donated to that. Thank you to those who donate on streams, to those who give through Patreon, who are members on here, but also those of you who I know are in no position to financially give that way, but watch videos, you hit like, you leave comments. When you let those ads run on the videos, depending on the video, you're helping support this channel, or you're helping support the original content creator in some cases too. Lee or Grant? I would take Grant. Eric, I appreciate that. Fantasy writer, I think if Europe recognized the CSA, it improves their chances of surviving. But I don't think it was ever going to happen. I don't think it was ever as close as a lot of people think it was. Somebody said something about the American Battlefield Trust. I want to catch back up with that. Sorry, don't mind me here for a second, guys. I got lost. It bumped down on the chat, and now I lost my place on where I was. Battle 360, stuff on the problem, Nebulous, with stuff like the History Channel is I'm concerned about copyright issues with some of that stuff. That's why I've kind of avoided that so far. I will at some point get to the rest of Epic History TV's Napoleonic Wars. I don't know, Kyle. By the way, Watkins is my wife's maiden name, so you might be related to her. The Wilhelm Gustloff, I know that it was a ship full of like 9 or 10,000 people that was hit by a Russian submarine and sunk. I don't know a lot beyond that. Patton or MacArthur? Patton was a better general. But Patton was never somebody I would never have put Patton in a position like Eisenhower's. Patton was good in command of an army. Somebody said something about the American Battlefield Trust, and now I can't find it. I was about to read that chat, and then I lost it. What Sabaton songs have I listened to but not done a reaction to? I can't think of any that I know really well that I haven't already reacted to. There's got to be one. No, I've done that one too. Yeah, I don't really think there are any. Cabo plays. I was in Wyoming about a year and a half ago, and I visited Independence Rock, as well as the purported grave of Sacagawea, though I know that may not be her grave. So I can't think of anything else off the top of my head that I want to visit beyond that. If there's a Wales-England Euros final, I cheer for England. I have more roots in England than I do in Wales, though I have both. Easton the Albanian. Carl the 12th. That's funny you mention that, because I want to get into talking about that part of history a little more. In fact, I almost started a series on him the other day, but it'll be coming. Yeah, I know I can hit Control F. I don't know if it works on the chat. I guess it does. GOF says all the recent American Battlefield Trust Gettysburg videos were great. Yes, they were. And my friend JD was in a couple of those from History Underground. I was kind of jealous that he got to do that. Who would I do a collab with in the channels I've reacted to? Probably any of them. But JD and I will definitely probably collab at some point. Mr. Terry and I probably need to collab at some point. I definitely want to visit Napoleon's tomb if I go to Paris. Favorite Stevie Ray Vaughan song? That's a good one. Let me look at a list of his stuff and I'll tell you real quick, because I'm sure I'm going to miss some as I think about it. I'm probably not going to do extra credits Ottoman Empire right away, because I've got another Ottoman Empire one I'm going to be doing. Oh yeah, Michael, I know about Sir Henry Howard. He was the one, I think his father was also about to be executed, but Henry VIII died first before he could execute him. The Howards had a history of getting executed by kings of England for a while there, and I think it was his son then that got executed on orders of Elizabeth I. Yeah, he was portrayed in the series The Tudors. He was kind of a pompous dude in The Tudors. The Earl of Surrey, I think. He wasn't the Duke of Surrey. He was the Earl of Surrey. His father was the Duke of Norfolk. Patton or Julius Caesar? Julius Caesar. I have not visited Portugal. I've never been to Europe. I'm hoping that'll change soon. Right now, I'm more interested in World War I, only because I've learned a lot about World War II already. I have been to the Grand Ole Opry. Favorite English football club is West Bromwich Albion. You'll see me wearing their stuff all the time. I had their jersey on in a video the other day. Favorite Scottish team is the Rangers, because my family comes from Govan in Scotland. Hannibal, underrated, I think, as a general. I do like ancient history. Why was Julius Caesar killed? Power. He had it, they didn't. Nathan, I was just in Boston last week. I've been to Boston 3 times. Frederick Barbarossa, I don't know enough about him to really give a good opinion. Napoleon or Caesar? Napoleon. But it's close. I haven't seen Emu War by Oversimplified yet. I got to do that. Sources for Romanian ancestry. Yeah, Vlad, you're right. Those are tough. I have not done a lot of research into Romania. It's been a number of years since I did. But when I did, it was hard. But I think slowly they're getting some stuff online. Check out FamilySearch.org. They may have some Romanian stuff there. Favorite flavored coffee? I like mocha. Favorite founding fathers? Alexander Hamilton. I have played Dungeons and Dragons, but that was back in college. That was a long time ago. Who was worse, Hitler or Stalin? Hitler. But it's close. My top 3 generals of the Civil War, and in no particular order, Grant. This is going to be a little controversial, but I'm going to say Joe Johnston. I think he's underrated. Grant certainly thought he was underrated. And yeah, Eric, that's probably fair. Not underrated, but undercovered, Hannibal. Grant, Joe Johnston, because I had to throw a Confederate in there. And I'm going to say Sherman. What Scottish clan am I? The closest one I would have would be, it's actually Hamilton. Alexander Hamilton is a cousin of mine. I'm descended from his grandfather. So Hamiltons, the Blairs are also a Scottish family of mine. Phil, yeah, that would be very interesting. Phil, actually, my plans the next time I go to Gettysburg are to talk about some of those more kind of human interest stories, things people may not know a lot about, stories about individual soldiers and things like that. Greetings from Italy, very cool. I don't know a lot about Dutch history. I'm sure Insane does, because he's Dutch. I am not LDS, but Family Search is an absolutely fantastic resource. Favorite NBA team are the Cleveland Cavaliers. My favorite player right now is Darius Garland, but my all-time favorite NBA player is Mark Price. A lot of times you'll see I use, like in my email address for my history channel, is HistoryGuy25. That's because of Mark Price. He was number 25. Greatest general of all time, Napoleon. Vlad, that's awesome. I hope you're able to find some things. Patton or Zhukov? Ooh. Different kind of general, different level of general, but I think I would probably say Zhukov. Who is worse, Hitler or Leopold III? Hitler. Thomas Paine, kind of a mixed bag for me. I think his early stuff was great. Later on, he got off the rails a little bit. Men Who Built America is fantastic, but I'm a little concerned about reacting to History Channel stuff because of copyright issues. I would love to do some Indian history at some point. Brenden, unfortunately right now, I'm not doing anything for Ancestry for anybody. I advertised it once on one video, thinking I might get a couple people here and there who might be interested, and started getting 5 or 6 people a day messaging me about it, to the point where I haven't even been able to respond to all the emails I've gotten about it, which I apologize for. If you are one of the people who have emailed me about Ancestry and I haven't responded, I get like 30 emails a day now, and I can't respond to all of them as quickly as I'd like. Joshua, my mother lives in Tucson. That's very cool. So right now I'm not taking any clients for research, just because I can't keep up with all of them. All right, where are we at on things? Let me take a look here. Oh, we got 260 people here. That's very cool. I still got that Vicksburg picture up there. I'm not sure why. Just because I haven't done anything else with it. All right. Do I have the silver play button? I'm eligible for it. They have not offered it to me yet. Do I like Penn State? I like Penn State. They're not my team. Ohio State's my team. Though I will say we have a personal family connection. My wife's great-great-grandfather, his name was Daniel Johnson. The football stadium is built on his farm. He donated that land to Penn State University. And through some thing in their charter, because they're a land-grant university, my kids can go to Penn State tuition free. We just have to put all the paperwork together and prove to them that he donated the land and all that stuff. So I would love to do videos with other historians I know, and hopefully those collaborations will be coming. Biggest mistake during Gettysburg was fighting there at all by the Confederacy. Lee should have listened to Longstreet and pulled out to the Pipe Creek line and gotten between the Union Army and Washington. Famous historical character in my family tree? Yeah, a few. I'm a direct descendant of James IV of Scotland. And because of that, and through a couple of different lines, then I'm descended from most of the Plantagenet kings and some of the French kings and people going back. If you can get back to one member of the royal family, you're related to all of them, basically, is how it works. But that's my closest royal tie, would be to James IV of Scotland. I have an ancestor who was on the Mayflower. His name was George Soule. You'll see my visit to his grave when I do the video from Plymouth. Daniel Boone is my uncle. Pocahontas, I'm descended from three of my four grandparents are descendants of Pocahontas. And I think I have a total of 6 different lines back to Pocahontas. So that's another one. Yeah, Daniel Boone's my uncle. Beyond that, my wife is a direct descendant of Thomas More, who was executed on orders of Henry VIII, so that's pretty cool. She's also a descendant of the guy who supposedly killed Richard III at the Battle of Bosworth. No. Have people like Ancestry offered a position to work? No, but before I did this channel, I actually considered going to work for them, but I didn't. Have I ever seen a Formula One race? I've seen a few. Eddie, no, but I'd like to get into some African history, especially now that I know I've got some African roots. Thoughty2's YouTube channel, I'll have to check it out. Favorite ruler in history, Edward III of England. Favorite historic event in world history I find the most interesting, and why? The Civil War, specifically Gettysburg. As I've mentioned already, why? No, I don't, Aaron, know much about Indian history. And take this, it's absolutely why I find Ancestry so fascinating. It does give you those personal connections to moments in history. Finding out, for example, that I had an ancestor, my great-great-great-great-grandfather was Daniel Survey. He was a sergeant in the 4th Pennsylvania Cavalry. And he was an orderly sergeant for General McCall during the 7 Days Campaign. And he, in his pension files, he talks about how General McCall gave him a message to take to General Reynolds during one of the battles. And if I remember right, both McCall and Reynolds were captured during the 7 days. And I just found that interesting, that here's my ancestor, who nobody really knows about, who has this connection to these two men, who personally worked with General Reynolds and delivered messages to him. And I just thought that was really pretty cool. Having an uncle who died in Andersonville made that very personal to me. Visiting that place and made it much more real and come much more alive to me. Knowing when I go to Vicksburg that at the Battle of Raymond on May 12th, 1863, that the unit most heavily engaged on the Union side at Raymond was the 20th Ohio, and my great-great-great-great-grandfather, Sam Hughes, was a corporal in Company H of the 20th Ohio. Knowing that as a 52-year-old man, he was fighting at Raymond, and that his division, Logan's division, was the very first division to march into Vicksburg after they surrendered, makes that history come that much more alive to me. The worst royal house in British history. Steve, you're right. The Stuarts were a crap show, to put it charitably. Your ancestor was the first convicted murderer in the U.S. from the Mayflower, Evan. Who was that? I have not met Ranger Matt Atkinson, but I've seen his videos. Mark, that's very cool. Do I have any pets? No, I have 3 children. Those are all the pets I need. My kids definitely would like to have pets. Just with my travel and work schedule and everything, it just wouldn't be fair to a pet. But I love animals. Why does the movie Braveheart imply William Wallace was secretly Edward III's father? I don't know why they chose to do that. They had to have a love story, I guess. It's not even possible timeline-wise because William Wallace died before Edward III was even conceived, I think. Do I think the first day changes if Reynolds had not been killed? No, I don't think it does, really. I don't think Reynolds would have done anything that would have changed the outcome because the First Corps did great, and it was the 11th Corps falling apart on the right flank. I guess it's possible because Reynolds would have been in overall command instead of Oliver Howard, so I don't know. Yeah, I definitely would like to get back to New York at some point. The Stuarts were crazy. Yeah, that's putting it charitably. The sack of Constantinople, 1204. I'll have to check that out. Oh, Connor, there are so many more dead body hijinks stories that they didn't even touch on. I wish they would have touched on more of that. Chelsea fan, huh? Well, I kind of root for Chelsea just because they have Christian Pulisic, and he's probably the best American out there right now. And I love their uniform. I don't like their uniforms. I like the color. I hated their uniforms last year with that 3, that logo from their sponsor. I just hated it. The George Ford you're named after was in the 74th Ohio. Very cool. I don't have pets. I have 3 children. Yeah, that's right. Daniel Cook. Okay. I'll get to some more salmonella stuff for sure. My kids do know about my channel. Actually, I just finally passed my daughter in subscribers this last week. My 16-year-old daughter has about 170,000 subscribers on her channel. The Eastern Roman Empire, Phil. I'm working on it. I don't have much time left, but I'm trying to conquer as much of that as I can on CK3. Sun Tzu or Alexander the Great? Alexander. Am I connected to any presidents? Well, my ancestor Thomas Blossom, who was part of the Pilgrims, but he was on the other. A lot of people don't know there were 2 ships. There was the Mayflower and the Speedwell. And one of the reasons why the Mayflower arrived so late in the year when it did is because the Speedwell kept leaking and they had to keep going back. So eventually Thomas Blossom had to remain behind because not everybody could fit on the Mayflower. He was on the Speedwell. But he is also an ancestor to Presidents Barack Obama and George W. Bush, so I'm related to them through him. I think those are probably my closest presidential relatives. How did I get so knowledgeable in history? Just reading and learning, absorbing all I can. Whenever I watch a movie or something like, let's say Braveheart. When Braveheart first came out, I spent like a month learning all I could about the real William Wallace. When Band of Brothers came out, I learned all I could about the 101st Airborne Division. So I allow things like that to be springboards to cause me to learn all I can about a topic. So reading, just reading. I probably read 3 or 4 books a month on history. Just a lot of it was really just that. I haven't read that one Lego guy. Sun Tzu or Clausewitz? Sun Tzu. Mr. Terry collab. I don't know. If somebody comes up with a good idea for me and Mr. Terry to do a collab, we can do that. I know he knows about my channel. Even before I had this channel, he and his followers invaded my gaming channel one time during a stream. Henry VIII or George III? George III. Digital Underground, actually, that is something that I'm starting to do some initial research into. I'm planning to write a book. It's kind of a niche thing, but I'm planning to write a book about the Ohio members of the 54th Massachusetts. A lot of people don't realize the 54th Massachusetts was not a Massachusetts regiment. It was a Massachusetts regiment. And the 54th and 55th Massachusetts regiments were from all over the country. Because when they heard that there were these units being raised, the first black infantry units, they came from all over the country to enlist. And so there were a bunch of people, even from where I live in Northeast Ohio, who were in those units. And I'm going to tell some of their stories. So I'm starting to do research on that. Greetings from Taiwan. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. And thank you for the donation. Augustus or Julius Caesar? Julius Caesar. Yes, Jacob. Robert E. Lee was George Washington's adopted grandson-in-law. Yeah. Robert E. Lee's father-in-law, George Washington Parke Custis, was Martha Washington's grandson, but was adopted by General Washington as his adopted son. Alfred the Great. Love Alfred the Great. I think he is somebody that people need to learn about in history more. Braveheart is as historical as a History Channel. Sad, but true. Crimson, I've played a ton of Hearts of Iron 4 on my gaming channel. Did the Civil War change European military doctrine? I'm not sure that it did much, just because they had their own Franco-Prussian War a few years later, and the Crimean War, which I think probably affected it more. Core of Discovery. I'll have to check that out. Jay is too smooth. I definitely want to do a video on the Lost Colony. I may be descended from people from the Lost Colony. It's a long story I won't get into right now. Maddox, I am writing a book. I'm actually about a third of the way done with a book on the Green Hills, which is another one of my ancestral families who came from the West Midlands in England. Mr. Terry and I do a challenge on who knows more about history. That might actually kind of be fun to do, like a quiz game or something where we both record our sides of it. Lord Zemnis, thank you. Appreciate that. I am definitely working on some ideas on something on Reconstruction. I think more people need to know about what an impact Reconstruction had on our nation's history, especially in Black history. And I certainly don't claim to be an expert on those things, but I want to learn more, and I'm working on some stuff about that. Is Robert E. Lee related to Christopher Lee? I'm sure probably somewhere back far enough they are. Black Robe I haven't seen. How was General Sherman able to get over his suicidal thoughts? I think I can't speak to this because I don't know what the man's thoughts were. But I think a lot of it had to do with I think this is true for a lot of people. My wife is getting her master's in school counseling right now, so she's doing a lot of psychology stuff, and we study this a lot. My wife and I were very interested in the psychology aspect of things. I think in Sherman's case, it's probably true, as it is for a lot of people, is that he found something to focus on. Take Grant, for example. When Grant got into his bouts of binge drinking, it was usually when there was nothing else going on. When he had things that he needed to focus on in the war, he didn't drink. I think the same was true for Sherman. I think when he had a lot going on and when he was able to focus on what was happening with his military career, I think that allowed him to focus on something and got him away from those suicidal thoughts. But that's just as an observer from the outside looking in. Oh, you're talking about Lewis and Clark, yeah. I visited the grave of, I think it was Clark's grave in St. Louis. Yeah, I'd love to do something on them at some point. I will do more armchair historian videos at some point. Taylor, going to be doing EU4 on the gaming channel here in the next couple of weeks, actually. No, I don't know about Mad Jack Churchill. Jack, glad you could join us. Would I say Stalingrad was a turning point or Midway? I think Stalingrad's probably more of a turning point for Midway, and here's what I mean by that. I don't think Midway changed the outcome of the war. I think it kept the war from being longer. I think the U.S. was always, and the Allies were always going to win in the war in the Pacific, but Midway sped up the timeline, if you understand what I mean. Stalingrad, I think, had a much more significant impact in determining the outcome of the Eastern Front. What made me love to learn about the Civil War so much, I think it was learning how many ancestors I had in the Civil War. By comparison, I've mentioned this before, I think most Americans, on average, just in terms of my own personal research I've done into multiple family trees, probably have 3 or 4 Civil War ancestors if their family's been in this country long enough. My wife has 1 Civil War ancestor, just 1. I have 13, which is a ridiculously high number. Pretty much every one of my male ancestors who was in that time period fought in the Civil War. Yes, my wife's coming in to say hi.
No, I need my key.
Oh, I have her car key. Where are you headed? Oh, okay. Have fun.
I won't be long.
Okay, let me catch up on things. Worse, Christopher Columbus or Stalin? Stalin. So yeah, I think that was the personal connection that made me love Civil War so much. I have seen the Mary Queen of Scots movie. Wigan. Wigan's got a football team, Wigan Athletic. I've heard of them. Biggest what if moment of history. Wow. There's so many. How important was the Alamo? Not nearly as important as people in Texas would probably have you believe. It bought time for Sam Houston, which is probably the most important thing. But in the grand scheme of things, probably not that important. It's a great story to talk about. Have I read Game of Thrones? No, I haven't read the books. But I do love the series. Nebulous. I might at some point, yes. Gamer Vortex. I visited Pearl Harbor in 2002 on my honeymoon. But I would love to get back there someday. And I've promised my wife that for our 25th anniversary, I'd take her back to Hawaii. So in 6 years, you might get a video from Pearl Harbor. Phil, not a lot. I don't think it had a great impact on the war. What Lee did in Western Virginia, kind of like what McClellan did in Western Virginia, didn't have a great impact on the war. Bigger mistake, Barbarossa or Pearl Harbor? Ooh, that's a tough one. And that's a good comparison. I'd say Barbarossa. Because I at least understand why the Japanese did Pearl Harbor. I think for the Japanese, Pearl Harbor was probably more necessary than Barbarossa was for Hitler. They were both huge mistakes in hindsight, though. Well, Hans, Stonewall Jackson can't be an ancestor because Stonewall Jackson doesn't have any living descendants. He might be an uncle or a cousin, but he can't be your ancestor. She didn't say hello. Yeah, she was just coming in to get her keys. They were in my pocket. I think if Rommel wasn't back in Germany, he could have made a significance. No, and I'll tell you why, because I still don't think they could have released. I think if Rommel had complete authority over what was happening at Normandy and didn't have to get permission from Hitler for things, then maybe. I couldn't tell you any other Admiral Yi content besides extra credits. The greatest human ever. Oh boy, that's a loaded question. I don't know much about Romania's history. Dennis, thank you for the donation. Part of Louisiana I'm most interested in. I'd love to visit the cemeteries in New Orleans. I think they look really cool because I know they're all above ground tombs, and I think that would be really cool to visit. Spiffiest American uniforms in history. Probably the Marines, right? I mean, I like the Marines uniforms. I do like, though, that the U.S. or the Army is getting back to the World War II style uniforms. I like that a lot. I didn't go anywhere connected to King Philip's War. I didn't really have a lot of time. It was a family history, or it was a family trip, so there wasn't a lot of time for history. Sean, you want to see my ethnic background? I'll show you my ethnic background. Give me 1 second here. I'll pull up my 23andMe for you here. At least genetically speaking, this is what my genes turn out to be. So give me 1 second. I'll drag it over to the screen and let you see it. It's almost all British. All right, let's see. It's basically British and African is what it is. All right, let's drag this over here so you guys can see it. All right, so at least according to 23andMe, I am 87% British and Irish. 2.3% French and German, 2.5% broadly Northern or Northwestern European, 3% Southern European, and 4.5% Sub-Saharan African. My great-great-great-grandmother, my third great-grandmother, was born into slavery in Kentucky. That's where my African is going to come in, is through my slave ancestor. Have I watched Sharp? Some. I haven't seen all of it yet. Was getting Rommel killed a mistake? Obviously, I think it was, but I don't think it changed the outcome at all. Always Sunny, you're in Oil City. Yeah, I do have an ancestor buried right outside of Titusville. All right, let's show you him here real quick. I was talking about Daniel Survey, my ancestor, who was a courier with the 4th Pennsylvania. His family, he actually was a blacksmith who worked in Titusville for a while. So let me find my ancestor who's buried up that way real quick, and I'll pull it over for you and let you see it. So here you go. George Survey, my 5th great-grandfather. This is actually his grave, and I believe he's buried right outside. He's buried in Dempseytown Lutheran Cemetery in Venango County. I've been to that grave and visited it there. But it was his son who was a sergeant in the 4th Pennsylvania and a courier. This is his grave here, which is in Curlsville in Clarion County, Pennsylvania. What if Napoleon won at Waterloo? I think it was only a matter of time before a coalition ends up defeating him anyway. Northampton, England, very cool. My favorite state is my own, Ohio. I love Colorado. I love Alaska, Kentucky. I have read Harry Turtledove's Timeline 191 series based on the Lee's orders not being found before Antietam. Yeah, I was talking about my DNA. Somebody asked me about that. History matters. Yeah, I'll have to do that. Next Grand Tactician video, probably Sunday or Monday. Best site for genetics. It depends on what you want. If you're looking to connect and work on your family tree better, I would say Ancestry. If you just want to learn more about your own personal genetics, 23andMe. Spartans versus Samurais. Who wins? Samurais. I have seen both midways, and I like them both. What if Lee won the Battle of Gettysburg? I don't think it changes anything. I think Vicksburg was much more consequential to the war. Mark, are we talking Cairo, Illinois, or Cairo, Egypt? I have been to the Hermitage in Tennessee. It was cool. I enjoyed it. It was before I was making videos. Great Trooper. It might be a little while before I do another Checkmate Lincolnites. Atten Shay's fans are a feisty bunch, and they don't seem to like it when I disagree with him. So I will do more reactions, but they'll be few and far between, I think. I haven't listened to the new Sabaton song yet. I did see that it came out. New CK3 video probably Monday. Oh, you're in Cairo, Egypt. Okay. Very cool. Through Stonewall's sister or mother. Okay, very cool. So he'd be like an uncle or a cousin to you. Oh, I love the story of the first Minnesota, and that'll probably be a Forgotten History episode at some point. Historia Civilis, I've had a lot of people asking about that, so that'll probably happen at some point. I'll show you my ancestry composition, because it's a little different than what 23andMe says, but pretty similar in a lot of ways. Because these are all estimates, and they're based on on what you inherit, which is not necessarily who your ancestors were. So give me 1 second, and I'll pull that up for you, let you guys see that. So this is my ancestry DNA composition. They've got 51% England and Northwestern Europe, and actually, if you look at my grandparents' DNA test, they actually show specifically the West Midlands. 31% Scotland, 12% Ireland, 2% Wales, 2% Cameroon, Congo, and Western Bantu peoples, 1% Nigeria, 1% Ivory Coast and Ghana. Antietam, the significance of that was that it led to the Emancipation Proclamation, which I think guaranteed that Europe didn't enter the war. Historic sites to visit in North Carolina. I would say there's some good ones on the coast, but I would also say Guilford Courthouse Battlefield would be a good one. Cole, very cool. We might be related because I'm related to Alexander Hamilton. I'm a little bit aware, General Johnny Rhee, of what went on with Egypt because I know they offered a bunch of commissions to former Confederate generals after the war. Cairo, Illinois, ghost town. Interesting. I'd love to visit there some point. I'm going to do a list of recommendations on books that I'll start putting in my in the links in the description of my videos probably in the next few years. Lucas, yes, Albion's getting promoted this year. 100% guarantee, especially if we can somehow find a way to hang on to Mateus Pereira. But even if we lose him, it sounds like they're trying to get OK back from Turkey. If they could get him, that would be huge for their promotion bids, I think. What if Napoleon won at Waterloo? I don't think it changes a lot. Ozai, yeah, there were a bunch of announcements at the beginning. You can watch the video later on when the stream is over. History of American music would be a cool thing to do. I have watched Hamilton. I've seen it live, actually, a couple of years ago. We saw it when the tour came to Cleveland. Lewis, yes, I mentioned that at the beginning. I will definitely be posting about my upcoming trips and when people can meet and join me for those. Aaron, I don't know nearly enough about the Teutonic Knights. I'm going to wrap this up, guys. I got a lot of other things I need to do today, including making some more content for the channel. The book Killer Angels is very, very good. But thank you guys so much for joining. We're going to do more live streams in the next couple of days. Might even do one sometime during the week. So those will be coming. Thank you, guys. If you missed anything at the beginning, go back and watch the stream later. You'll be able to see it later on. So